Hello everyone, my name is Markus Manz. I'm a flight instructor here at Ozark Aviation, and today I'm going to be taking you through our pre-flight procedure with our handy-dandy checklist, which you will have at home so you can follow along. And we're going to go ahead and get started. First item on our checklist is going to be our pitot cover. So we're going to come on over here. This is our pitot tube. We've got our pitot cover on here, so we're going to remove that. We want to make sure that that's not on there when we take off. The next thing we're going to look at is for cowl plugs. Our airplane's generally in a hangar, so we don't really have to worry about that too much. But if you're outside, you might have a plug here and a plug here, and you want to take those off before you want to take those out before you leave. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to sump the fuel on our airplane. We want to make sure that we have nice light blue 100 low lead in this airplane. We don't want to see any kind of water deposits in the bottom of it, or any kind of dirt or debris, or the wrong color. That means we have the wrong fuel. So on our airplane, we have one sump on each wing. And so we take this and insert it into our sump, press up, and we get some fuel out of there. And we'll get a little bit out of here so you can see a little better at home. As you can see, we've got nice light blue 100 low lead, no debris, no water in the bottom of it. Then we're going to move along to the other side and do the same thing on the other wing. Here's our other sump. And fuel looks good. And we have one more sump that we need to check. That's going to be in the nose of our plane. In order to start that, to get to that sump, we have to open up this cover. And in here, there's a white little cover that you can pull. If you can see that, it's right there. That white cover. And we're going to pull that, put this simultaneously underneath this drain, and we get the airplane to dispense some fuel for us. And that's the lowest point of our airplane. And again, we have no debris in there. Nice, good fuel. That's how we like it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to check how much fuel we have in the wings, because we don't ever trust our gas gauges. For that, we have our handy-dandy dipstick, and we're going to pour this fuel back in because aviation fuel is expensive. All right, now we're going to go ahead and sump our wing, make sure that we have plenty of fuel, because again, we don't trust those gas gauges, because they will read full even when we're down to about a quarter. So that's probably not good. Right there, we have about 15, 16 gallons. It's right in between. We're going to do it a couple of times. We don't want to lose the stick in the tank either. And I'd say we're about 15 gallons on that. And we're going to always err kind of on the side of caution and estimate a little lower than what we actually are, just as a margin of error. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, on this wing, we're looking at around 13 gallons, and that's completely normal, but this left one reads just a little bit lower than that right one. All right, 13 gallons. We're going to pour our fuel back in there. Spill it all over the wing. And close that up. We want to make sure these are closed. We don't want to have these open up in flight. All right, so the last thing on our initial checklist is going to be checking the oil. This is very important. Don't over tighten these, because they are not easy to get off sometimes. And we're checking, and we can see that we're right at 6. So that's almost a little on the low end. I'd probably add another quart. And we're always looking to have it level between 8 and 6 quarts. And so in this case, we're going to add another quart, and you can follow along for that. All right, well, we've established that we're a quart low, and I went ahead and got ourselves some oil in a funnel. A good pilot will always have a quart of oil in the back seat. So if they are on a cross-country flight and they're a little bit low on oil, they can top it off. So we're going to add this oil in here, and then we're going to remeasure and make sure everything's good. All right, we've added our quart. Let's check out, see where we're at. Just make sure, we should be level, but we're going to make sure. And that looks to be about 7 quarts. So we are good on that. And that completes our the initial part of our checklist. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the interior. So Brett, if you'd like to meet me on the other side. All right. So over here, I've laid out all of our documents. So the first part we have is our ARROW. That's our acronym. And that ARROW stands for Airworthiness Certificate, which is going to be this is the original certificate from 1973. Then we have our registration, valid for 7 years now. Then we have our operating handbook and our weight and balance. And these are the documents we have to have in the airplane to be legal to fly for the airplane. The next step is going to be remove our control wheel lock, throw that into the back seat. We're going to make sure that our ignition is out and off, and our avionics master switch is off. Next, we're going to turn our master switch on. We can hear that beacon firing up, and we're going to lower our flaps down all the way. All right, so I'm going to be operating the lights, and you guys will check out and confirm that they're working. You can do this alone, but it goes a lot faster if you have a helper. So I'm going to go ahead and, Brett, why don't you go ahead and check that that beacon is rotating. All right, beacon. I'm going to turn that off. Brett's going to go over to the left wing here. We've got our nav light and strobe coming on. I believe that's looking good. Brett, continue to the nose. We're going to go ahead and turn the landing light on. All right, landing light seems to be looking good. Landing light's coming off. Now we're going to turn on our nav light and strobe again for the right side. We see those are working. And then Brett's going to continue to the tailplane and check our last nav light and our last strobe. Now that we've confirmed that our lights are working, we're going to turn all that back off and turn on pitot heat. And Brett is going to put the back of his hand up to it and check for pitot heat. Pitot heat is good, so we can turn that off. And then the master comes back off. We're looking inside. Our fuel selector valve is both, and our fire extinguisher is in the back. Now we're going to go to our exterior checklist. I'm going to join you on Brett's side, which is the pilot side, where you will be sitting. All right, first thing we're going to do, we'll make sure that our baggage door here is shut. We don't want this opening up on us on flight. Looks good and secure. We're going to keep moving down here, and we're going to make sure that our tail tie down there is a hook. Right now, because we're out base out of the hangar, we don't have a tie down, so we don't have to worry about that. But if we were parked outside, that might be something to consider. We're going to go check our horizontal and vertical stabilizer. We're making sure that there are no kind of major dents or defects. We're checking our nuts and bolts, making sure that everything is moving properly. There's good freedom of movement. Again, we're checking all of these connections, looking for anything abnormal. I like to give it a nice few movements and make sure that nothing is rubbing or grinding and everything feels good. We'll move on over here to this side. Again, we're checking that our trim is attached and not going anywhere. Looking in here, all my nuts and bolts, all good. My counterweight is up in here. Again, giving it plenty of movement. And I move on. I'm keeping on looking on this side. All right, no damages. I'm checking my antennas. We've got all of our antennas on here. Nothing's broken off. And then we're going to go over here to our right flap. I like checking these from the inside. I like looking up here, making sure that these are attached properly. This is a good amount of movement still. This is completely normal. And then I go over to my right aileron. Again, I'm checking all of my nuts and bolts up in here, making sure that all of these are properly attached. Then my linkage is attached. I like to get over here to the wing, give it a little shake, make sure everything's good. Then I go along my leading edge. And I'm checking again for any kind of major dents. Checking down here, and then I'm going to move on to my tire. I'm going to make sure that my tire has plenty of thread on it, that there is no flat spots from a student that's pressed the brakes on landing, that my brake disc here is good, and that I've got brake pads, and that there's no brake fluid leaking out of this side. So this side looks good to me. I'm going to continue to move on towards the nose of the airplane. Now I'm checking the cowling, making sure that all the screws are properly attached. This is not going to come apart in flight. I go to the front of the airplane. I'm checking my propeller for any kind of nicks or dents that are beyond normal wear. Then I'm checking my alternator belt, making sure that's still properly attached and isn't falling apart on me. I like to give the muffler just a little bit of a movement there with my foot because it could be hot and we don't want to burn ourselves. Next, I'm checking my air intake. Again, with Arkansas having cicada season, this might be an issue. So we want to make sure there's no bugs or birds that have gotten in there. Then I'm going to my nose tire, my nose wheel, making sure it has plenty of thread left, and that my strut has more than 3 fingers. Right now, this looks good. We've just had this fixed. Next, I'm moving on to my left wing. Again, I'm checking that leading edge, making sure that pitot tube is clear, that my stall horn is clear, that my fuel tank vent is clear. There's no bugs in there. I'm going along the leading edge of the wing. Again, looking for any kind of defects. Up here, we have some cracks, but this is completely normal. And we're again checking our left aileron now, making sure everything's good. All our nuts and bolts are in there, our linkages are in there. I'm checking my left flap, making sure everything's good up in here. The last thing I want to do, I want to check my left tire. Again, tires looking good. The brake pads and the brake discs looking good. And I want to remove my chocks. Make sure that we don't have those on when we get ready to go. And that completes our exterior checklist. And now we're going to move on to our before start checklist and get ready to get on out of here.